Let's ask some individual questions to each candidate. We'll start with you, Mr. Rooney. Your critics say you moved to the district just to run for Congress. Are they right to use the word carpetbagger to describe you?
No, bottom line is that this district's not hurting from people moving into it. It's hurting from people moving out of it. And as a congressman, I will welcome new people into this district. I will encourage people to stay here, to move back here. I moved to Michigan. I'm one of the few people that moved to Michigan after I left active duty Marine Corps for a job. And then when my wife and I were in a very difficult situation with our third child who had a heart defect, and we were able to save his life at Mott Children's Hospital at University of Michigan, we decided we were staying here in Michigan. We were going to raise our children here with Michigan values. And we thought the best place to do it was in the 7th Congressional District.
But speaking of the district, though, when it comes to the issues, isn't it fair to say these two gentlemen have lived them their entire lives and you've tried to learn them in the last year?
No. The federal government, the Constitution, which I have studied and have advocated for at the Thomas More Law Center, conservative constitutional public law firm, requires that you live in the state, that you're a citizen of the country, and that you're 25 years old. You don't have to live in the district. When I moved to Michigan, I did not. I lived a couple miles from the district, but I knew the district well. In fact, all of us on the stage were not born and bred in the district. We're all newcomers to the district, so to speak. But sometimes when you live in a crisis so long, that crisis, you get used to it. And sometimes you need fresh eyes to a problem that's been there so long. And I offer those fresh eyes, that new leadership that this district so desperately needs.
Mr. Carlson, Mr. Wahlberg has served in Congress. Mr. Rooney has not, but he has a brother who's in Congress currently. Considering your lack of, you haven't held political office, what qualifies you to be able to do the job once you get elected to Washington?
Well, I used to teach political science. I was a teaching fellow for 2 years at the University of Michigan. That was way back in the 70s. But more than that, I have real-world experience. I don't think we need career politicians back in Washington. I think they're the problem, not the solution. We need folks going to Washington who've had actual job creation experience, have worked in the community on a continuing basis, have actually built value in the community and given back to the community. Not folks who simply move into the district basically the week they announce. That's not who we want to represent the hard-working people of Michigan. I've spent my whole life here in southern Michigan. I've spent all of that time not only pursuing a business, but trying to make this community better. And I think that that counts for something. And it certainly counts much more than a political career when you are assuring your own self-preservation rather than the benefit of the community that you serve.
Mr. Wahlberg, your turn. 2 years ago, the voters of this district abandoned you. What makes you think that they're ready to give you another chance, to support you again, rather than have some new Republican blood in the race?
Well, we'll find out on August 3rd, won't we?
Yeah.
And we are appealing to the people who last time stood strongly with me. Remember, in this district, while I lost to Congressman Schauer, I lost by 2 points. Barack Obama defeated John McCain by 6 points. I did 10,000 vote better outcome in that election than John McCain in this district. I think that indicates something, as well as a strong approval rating that still is there, because I stood on the principles that I said I would. I represented the people according to the principles I promised to them. And it was a tough political year. It's changed now. People have the benefit of an experience of seeing this hope and change that has become a nightmare, that has become a takeover of their lives, their jobs, the manufacturing, the health care, the energy, so forth and so on that's gone on. And people are saying, you know something? Either I made a mistake last time, I'm going to remedy it this time, or I'm going to get out to the polls this time and make sure I can put into office someone that is a true, proven, principled conservative that I don't have to guess about. Jason, there are, in people's minds, the question comes up, you know, there are 435 of us in Congress. To worry about the 434, they don't have much choice. But they have a choice of saying, I don't have to worry about my own if I pick appropriately. And I think that's where it comes, having had 20 years of experience in the private sector, having had 18 years in elected office with a record that is significantly conservative to the point that all the key conservative groups of taxpayer organizations, Tea Party groups such as Dick Armey's group that's set aside for the Tea Party organizations have endorsed me because of the record. In the country, we say it's not a pig in a poke. We know this person. We know where he stands. And I think that's why they'll elect me on or nominate me on.
All right, this one's for everybody. We'll start with Mr. Carlson. Do you support a ban on offshore drilling, oil drilling? Mr. Rooney, drill it?
We need to maintain our drilling posture because it's a national security interest for us to be energy self-sufficient at some point. We have enemies in this world. And as a person that was in the Marine Corps, I understand who those enemies are. Some of them are self-apparent in the Middle East, and they don't have our country's best interests at heart. We have some of our oil come from Mexico, which our State Department says is a near-failed state. And then Communist China creates a lot of the energy that we have off the coast of Cuba. So the old saying in the oil business is somebody else drinking your milkshake? Well, the Red Chinese are, the Cubans are, and some other countries that are not our friend.
And the BP oil disaster shouldn't deter us at all?
Well, it should give us pause to see what we can do better in the future. Yeah, it's a disaster, and I don't like seeing the images every day, just like anybody else. It's a beautiful part of the world and this country in the Gulf, and right now there's a complete ecological disaster going on down there, and it's because people were cutting corners, and people do need to be held responsible, not just in BP, but the administration for those that gave the go-aheads to start drilling and those sorts of things. So we need to do a better, more efficient job and fix the bureaucracy that, you know, was part of the problem here, but we need to allow for drilling not just in that part of the world, but in Anwar and other parts of the world as well.
Mr. Wahlberg, keep on drilling?
Absolutely keep on drilling. Do it environmentally sound, but I think we have proven with a number of years that you've had offshore drilling that it is safe. I think
despite the recent disaster, it's
despite
totally
the recent
safe.
disaster, I think, you know, what we ought to be looking at, not only BP, which we ought to, but we ought to be looking at the permitting process and the regulators who should have been knowing what was going on.
So it's more BP being reckless rather than the industry being dangerous?
Well, I don't think we've determined that yet. I think that's where the hearings have to come, and I've been surprised we have not had hearings that have really looked at the whole picture, including the government's involvement in it, in giving the permit, in fact giving the standards required for that type of drilling. That many in the industry, as I understand it, are saying there are better ways of doing it. Now, we know for a fact that drilling will continue offshore, but it'll be by Brazil and other countries. And George Soros and others will be ingratiated as a result of that. And we will be buying, as Brian said, we'll be buying those fuel sources back from foreign countries. So it's going to happen. The issue is, why don't we do it better? Why don't we open up more opportunities to drill? You know, my bill was...
Should we drill in the Great Lakes?
We shouldn't drill in the Great Lakes, but we don't have to.
So in somebody else's backyard, but not ours?
No, I'm saying we can drill in more appropriate places and still get that same oil by going on land. That's what Canada's doing. They're doing slant drilling and selling it back to us. Why aren't we up at Anwar? Alaska's asking for it. We know that we could do it safely, and even if we had a blowout, Red Adair and his forces could handle that far more quickly and effectively than deep water drilling. So the bottom line is, the issue ought to be faced is, why are we hamstringing ourselves from having an all-of-the-above energy plan that uses the resources we presently have, develop new sources, whether it's biofuels or air, wind or solar power, hydrogen, and you name it, what the creativity of the American mind could come up with, and say, we're going to be totally independent from the rest of the world.